First, we're going to look at staffing. The dark green there is for the actual slots allocated, and we're full on the public service professionals, the new job category that was created last year in the budget. They've been performing in an outstanding manner, helping free up officers' time. They were doing exactly what they were created to do. Our records clerks were authorized 9. We're still vacant 2 positions right now. Dispatchers were authorized 37 total personnel. We have 32 on board and 5 vacancies. So we're putting some emphasis on dispatchers, recruiting and hiring dispatchers right now. Police officers were authorized 234, and we have 232 on board right now. We have 2 vacancies. DWIRS, I'm just looking at second quarter, so this is April, May, and June of 2017 compared to April, May, and June of 2018. So we've had a decrease there of 12 arrests. Looking at crime, burglary. This is residential burglary of habitations, so where folks live. If you look here, we've been trending down. For April, we were down. For May, we were down. In June, we were flat. But overall, we're down 13 fewer residential burglaries for the second quarter of 2018 versus the second quarter of 2017. Commercial burglary, we've seen an uptick in. Commercial burglary, we had an uptick there in April and a slight uptick in May. Yeah, we dropped off in June, so we're flat overall. One of the areas that we've struggled in is vehicle theft. We'll talk more about this in a later slide. But theft of vehicles in the city, looking at a second quarter of 18 to 17, we're up 27 total offenses. We have had 27 more vehicles stolen in this quarter than the same time period in 2017. Burglary of motor vehicle, we've had some success. Burglary of motor vehicle is the #1 reported crime in the city of Mesquite where someone takes something from a vehicle. We'll talk more in depth about this in a bit while we have these numbers. To brag a little bit, we've had a very good public education campaign, Lock, Take, and Hide, where the communication staff has helped us, and the city manager's office has helped us last year by hiring a company to help with that. I believe we're seeing some of the benefits of that, the public education campaign, the PSAs, and all those things. So it's still our most often reported crime, but we're down overall 116 fewer crimes reported this quarter of 2018 versus last year in same time period in 2017. Okay, we divide the city in in quadrants here. Each lieutenant is responsible for a quadrant. We're going to start with the northwest quadrant. Now, as we go through the quadrants and talk about crime, I'd like to remind you, when we analyze crime and look for trends, we look for 3 things: people, places, and behaviors. People involved in crime as the suspects and the victims, the places where the victimization takes place, and the behaviors that they may be engaged in that makes them susceptible to being a victim. So as we go through, we'll look at this. This is one of the places we looked at. This residence at 4727 Law Lane. It's an epicenter that's required 62 police calls for service in the last year, 48 calls for service just in 2018. So it's a resource drain. We've targeted that area with deployment officers doing an extra enforcement. Camera trailer parked right outside there, videotaping everybody coming and going, but we're on the public right-of-way. 17 incidents there resulted in arrest, primarily narcotics related. It's a family home where the parents have passed away. Other siblings live out of state. The one who lives there, the other siblings are reluctant to evict him because they're afraid he's going to come live with them. So we are working with legal. Cody's working with us about expediting the abatement process because it's one place we know that people are gathering. It doesn't look like that now. That's the Google Earth picture. I've been by there just Friday night. I drove by there. There's nothing in the yard. They finished the construction on the awning, so it doesn't look quite as horrible as it does there. But it is something we're working on. Also, in the first quadrant up there, we look at, if you look in the middle of those 2 graphs there, we look at the actual individual crimes. Those little dots, those red marks are crimes. In the bottom map there is what we call a heat map, a density map. And with the red area, there's a concentration of crime. Sergeant Green, who's on the lower left of that slide, he works the late night patrol. He spotted a homeless encampment over there at 4525 Gus Thomas, and that led us to a place where we can focus our enforcement activity on. And we've done that, and we've reduced the crime in that area. Officer Hoke there on the left. Technically, this 7/15/18 contact he had there. He arrested someone. That's in this coming quarter, third quarter, but just so you know, when we identify something like that, I just want you to see there is some follow-up. We don't just move on down the road. We do address those issues. The next one is the retail area. You look at this part of the city. This is from basically Town East Mall there all the way east to the city limits. That's the next quadrant we're going to be looking at. We call that the retail quadrant because of so many businesses that are there. And in beat 4, which is the very most eastern part of the city, there's been a 161% increase in burglary motor vehicles in that area. This is look at the concentration there. We look at the most of those vehicles were still unlocked. That's one of the things we identified in our analysis, is about anywhere from 40 to 60% of the vehicles that have something stolen from are unlocked. 9 of those vehicles in these reported crimes were unlocked. Firearms were stolen. So people continue, even with our aggressive public education campaign, to leave their vehicles unlocked. And but we're going to have a success story here right after this. We look at this. Officer Solis, who's the top right, he arrested somebody. And again, this is in July. It's after this reporting period, but we believe this person who was arrested is responsible for a number of those. He arrested this young man. His name is down there on the bottom. That's his public criminal history. He's been arrested for burglary of a building, burglary of a motor vehicle 4 times, theft 3 times, and evading arrest, running from police 3 times. This suspect was arrested by Officer Solis, and he was booked into jail. He had a backpack with property from 2 victims in it. The next morning, the Detective Smiley, who's the bottom right, he's one of our auto theft investigators. He interviewed the suspect, and he confessed to committing over 100 BMVs. So we believe he and a couple other people who are working with him are responsible for most of those BMVs, that increase from April to June. And so he's already been arrested. In the case, the investigation is still ongoing to identify. And that suspect lives in Forney and would come here and just walk the neighborhood. So, okay, the Mid-Cities area there, beat 5 and 6. We had an increase in auto thefts, like as I mentioned earlier, citywide. So this is what the middle sheet there is what we look like, some of our tactical predictions. Our crime analysis unit looks at crimes, time of day, day of week, and they target an area and say there's 68% confidence there'll be another crime in that area, so we can concentrate our patrol efforts in those areas and the types of vehicles that are being targeted and being stolen. With that, we realized that there was in the 100 block of Montego, there was a concentration of offenses around there, in and around there. Working with our crime analysis unit and talking to officers in the city of Dallas who were working a suspect who was from our city going over there and committing crimes as well. He was identified, a case was built, he was arrested, and they were evicted from this residence there on Montego. So people, places, behaviors. The southeast quadrant, the very tail end of the city, extended over into Kaufman County. We had, again, a place, we identified a house because a robbery suspect we were pursuing ran there back in April. He was identified and arrested, but 7 individuals at that house who were there visiting and hanging out there, known offenders. We've arrested them multiple times. Some of them are gang members. And so we deployed our deployment team, which is a concentrated patrol efforts. We use our trailer cameras. We even used the SWAT team to execute a narcotic search warrant there in June, on June 18th. And that yielded 2 firearms being recovered, a large amount of marijuana and ecstasy, and an amount of cash. So multiple people were arrested then, and the occupants have since been evicted from that residence. Major Crimes Unit, this crime occurred back in May, robbery of Gem City jewelry. We used this as a Crime Stoppers tip. We put it out. We got some information. Our investigator worked very hard, developed information. This young man, one of the young men there is a young man named Jalen Brandon. He's in custody now for that robbery, and he's back here in Texas in custody. The other 2 suspects have yet to be identified. So robberies, our last category of crime I want to go over. When we look at the robbery numbers here, there's been some. If you look at the first quarter of the year, January, February, March, you see high numbers there. And that's when we had the Whataburger crew going. We had 3 different multiple series of robbers out there. All those people are in custody. The Whataburger robbers, the one was robbing the convenience stores in the Creek Crossing area. And then if you see April, May, and June, 13, 11, and 13, so down This quarter, we're down 21 robberies versus the same time period last year. So we've experienced some success by targeting the right people and going in there and finding them and arresting them. The serial robbers, it reduces our overall crime rate. So that's why we focus on people. Some of our performance measures here. Pardon me, I'm trying to get through this. I know we're getting short on time, so I'm trying to rush through. I will take your questions at the end. We'll leave time for questions. Priority 1, calls. That's our most serious calls: shootings, stabbings, things like that. Accidents on freeways where people could be injured. So the number of calls we get, 1,500 of them of our overall calls from January 1 to June 30th. Our average response time there, and then the time it takes to clear. And priority 2 are disturbance calls where there's potential for violence. Either somebody claims to have a weapon has been seen, or there's been already physical violence taking place. So family disturbances, things like that. So that's our second. That's the second priority there, and we get to those. We try to get to those within. Our goal is within 8 minutes for the first one, 12 minutes for the second one. We're meeting our goals in both of those cases. Priority 3 are disturbances where there's just an argument, there's no physical violence, and a lot of those in priority 3 are alarms. So if you'll notice that all the way to the right there, from the time we receive the call to the time we clear it, is much shorter than the other 2. Those other 2 usually result in some sort of report being made, sometimes arrest being made, so it takes longer to clear those calls than it does the priority 3 call. So you can see, depending on the type of call, how long it takes somebody to complete the call and move to the next one. So most of our alarms are false alarms. So it gives us, they're able to clear those calls quicker. So our communication center overall, you can look at a number of calls we get in the center, second quarter of 17 compared to second quarter of 18. Property room, our technical service unit, just give you a snapshot here. There's a couple of good snippets. First of all, property room and impounds. But at the bottom of this slide, you see at alarms. We've changed out personnel. One person became a PSP, such work. The guy who had been doing alarms for a while. He's done a great job, but he was ready for a change. We have a new person in there, brought some bit of renewed energy there to the position. Our revenues are up and collected, but you look at our alarms, while they're down slightly from 17 to 18, the percentage of false alarms are still high, 98%, 98.5%. Only 1.5% of alarms are good alarms, but we've collected more money so far this year compared to last year for those alarm fees. Also on the bottom right, top 5 false alarms. There was one business in the schools that were been at the top, so no longer are they at the top. We have a new top 5 here. So the school district has done a much better job at sending their own security personnel out to verify alarms before they call us. So we're getting much fewer of those false alarms. And the one business was the Tractor Supply, and they had outside feed storage, and they had motion sensor alarms, and animals would come up to eat the food, set off the alarm. We'd end up going out there. So they fixed that. They've taken care of that. And so now you see this. So we're aware of who the people are, the number of alarms they have, and we're pursuing those with diligence to get those corrected, so we don't waste more time on alarms. BPOC stands for Basic Peace Officer Course. So we have 2 vacancies right now. That's because we have 17 people in training. BPOC 9 started in April. They're going to graduate in October. There's 10 recruits in there, 7 males, 3 females, 2 prior military. And this is I mentioned that simply because we went to civil service with the help of Rick French and the Civil Service, as a Civil Service Director, Civil Service Commission, and added a military waiver that if you have 3 years of active duty service, waive the college requirement. So we're starting to see the benefits of that and get some service members coming right out of the service into the police department. BPOC 10 started in July, and they have a long time to go. But there's 6 males and 1 female there and in that class. So if you look at that, 17 recruits, 4 females, that's going to be a big help in increasing our female representation in the organization, because oftentimes we have the need for female officers either to interview a victim of violent crime who wants to speak only to a female officer, or to search female officers or things like that. So increasing our number of representation of females in the organization is important. I want to brag a little bit here on the Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association. They received an award, membership award, at this recent convention. It was noted in the email I think Julie sent out with the employee notification of Mesquite News. This is the third time they received the award. This is only one of 4 awards they give out every year. This is the third time that they've received it. They've donated over 9,000 hours of time to the city of Mesquite and to the Mesquite Police Department. So many things we wouldn't be able to do without them. That's just the truth. Words can't express how important they are to us and the overall success of our mission. I want to brag on them for a minute there. Other things we do, this is something we do every year. The Crime Prevention Unit has a career day with the JROTC students. This is in the summer, right after school lets out, to have a summer camp for the leaders of our ROTC unit going to go to the next year, and so this is sophomores and up, and we have a little summer camp. The school district does that. The ROTC department, they come to the police department for a day, talk about careers in law enforcement. Other things, Officer Contreras, they're going out, visiting with kids, law enforcement day at the kids' daycare. Our K-9 officers out in Creek Crossing attend the Crime Watch meeting. Officer Rowan, 2 of our K-9 officers there. And then next is next door. I'll mention that we've exceeded our expectations there. We have 17,000 people signed up, or households signed up, members of the Mesquite next door page. I had a goal of 10,000 when I got here in 2016. We've exceeded that. Also, one exciting thing, Ring is opening a law enforcement portal, and it's going to allow us. There's 1,900 Ring devices, doorbells, or other camera devices in the city of Mesquite now, and they have a portal where people can share videos. They're going to allow us access to that portal to ask people. This is going to enhance our camera registration program. It hasn't gone very, very well, to be quite honest. This is going to give us access, by partnering with them, to a lot more potential videos to solve crime. And I'll take questions, sir.
That's great, Chief. Thank you so much. We appreciate all that you and your department do. We know there's challenges in all police work, but we're very proud of the work that you do, especially the bad guys that get caught quite a bit. So, and you guys do a great job of that. Comments? Do we have anything?
Questions?
Certainly. Mr. Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief, for a great presentation. A couple of questions regarding the homeless encampments and interaction that your folks are having with the homeless. Are we having many complaints about any real crime from homeless folks, or nuisance issues, or folks that maybe they're some of the mentally ill ones are not responding well to citizens or businesses? Are we having many of those complaints of recent that you know of, or is it just the encampments?
Well, the encampment there that was identified at Gus Thomason, the sergeant was doing increased patrol there because of the increased crime in the area. And he believes, because couple of those people had warrants and they were out there, that it wasn't a direct link, no, but he believes through his training experience that those are the people contributing to the crime in the area. And that's why I want to put our increased focus there. We have a few calls that come in specifically about homeless people. And I can find the numbers if we identify somebody who is homeless and they're involved in crime, but it's not something that we necessarily track. We look at the place and, like I said, those behaviors, and so we look at things that contribute to the overall environment conducive to crime, and we believe that encampment was doing that. So.
And the reason I ask is from time to time, for example, over in the Oates Gus Thomason area, residents would say sometimes around the McDonald's and the old shopping center there'd be some issues, but them being there versus them actually doing things to bother people are two different things. So I was just curious if we had much feedback on that.
Like I said, I don't have any exact numbers about the number of people actually involved in crime that are homeless. What we look at each incident in and of itself, and so when we looked at that crime in that area, Sergeant Green, I think, did a great job. I think it was a very astute observation that they were probably contributing to the crime in that area.
Are we having many opportunities where, because I've had officers from time to time tell me that they've offered to take a homeless person to a shelter if there was an availability, and sometimes they've told me those folks just don't want to go. Is that happening very often that you know of, or do those opportunities come up for us?
Those opportunities do come up. I think it depends on the officer and the person, and each interaction is unique. Our approach to homelessness is basically the 3 E's: educate, educate them of what resources are available, encourage them to accept those resources and give them a ride if necessary. And the last thing we want to do is enforce, because that ties up officers for really, usually a very low level crime that's going to put somebody in our jail, take an officer off the street, and it's not really going to change the complexion of what's going on out there. It's not going to make a meaningful impact. So we try to be very selective, but yes, I know of some officers, because I've received calls from Dallas complaining about Mesquite police cars over there at the homeless shelters, where we're taking homeless people to Dallas. That's where the shelters are. And they said, don't bring us your problems. I said, well, you're the one who sent them to us first. I have no
Chief.
shame in my game
Thank
about
you.
sending them right back.
Thank you, Chief.
Taking them right back over there.
Chief, my next question, given the number of retirements we've had over the last few years from some veteran, more seasoned officers and the influx of new officers we're having, which is fantastic, by the way, thank you for that. Do you have any concerns from time to time if we don't have enough veterans who can be mentors and be an example to the younger folks coming in, or do you feel like that's still a pretty good mix as far as you can tell?
Yeah, yes, sir. It's still a pretty good mix, because out of our 234 officers, we only have 50 that have 20 or more years of service. So we still have, and just because you get 20, you're eligible to retire, doesn't mean you can live on the pension at that point. You usually have to have a few more years on you there. So we still have a significant number of our department that's 20 or less. So we have a good mix, I believe, of 10 to 20-year people who can share their knowledge and indoctrinate people into the organization in a very professional way.
And the last thing, it's not a question, it's more of a comment and a thank you. Probably towards the end of the school year, a number of my constituents over in the Northridge Estates area were concerned about some suspicious activity at the Northridge Shopping Center and some surrounding businesses, as well as Tysinger Park behind there. And in part due to some residents over there who've been doing a good job of reporting crime and communicating with us. Your guys have done some arrests and have cleaned some things up over there, and a number of residents are very excited and appreciative of that. And I just wanted to say thank you for some good police work over there here recently.
Yes, sir. I'll let them know.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for the chief? No? Great report. Thank you very much as always. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, sir.